So no draws in the opening weekend of League Two, only victories, and we focused on the teams that had a really bright start to the season. Obviously, a mention at this stage for Harrogate Town, who pulled off the upset of the league, winning 1-0 at Bristol Rovers, who were one of the promotion favourites before the season. But we're focusing on Crewe Alexandra, who began with a 3-1 victory at Salford City. Quite fancied themselves by some people for promotion. Walsall, of course, who reached the player final last season, they began with a 2-1 victory over Swindon Town, despite a red card. Grimsby Town putting in a bit of a statement, if you like, a 3-0 victory for David Artell's team over relegated Crawley Town. And Fleetwood, of course, going to Barnet and winning 2-0. Newly promoted Barnet, that is. Fleetwood Town got the better of them as Pete Wildside looks to challenge for promotion. So a great weekend for those four sides, and those are the bright starters that we're going to be looking at in this League Two podcast. So if you like what we do here on EFL Debate, you can do us a massive favour by getting subscribed to us on YouTube and on Spotify. For now, I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host for the evening, Ed Walker, an expert on all things fourth tier. Ed, thanks so much for joining us. Anyone, that's kind of put a marker down for you in terms of that those opening day performances?
Is there someone other than Grimsby Town we can go with?
We can go with Grimsby Town.
It's the standout one from that first day. Probably the best example, not just in scoreline, but actually in terms of general performance. A mismatch. I mean, the red flags probably come out from Crawley when you're seeing comments afterwards from Lindsay saying they're basically rubbish in all departments. That's probably an indication that it was a very one-sided affair, and maybe Artell's even a bit disappointed with the lack of a win. And for Grimsby to go and do that without Danny Rose in the squad, without Svan Thorson, who's been playing wing-back roles for a large part of the recent months of the season. So, super impressive.
Yeah, fantastic start for Grimsby Town. We'll certainly come on to the Mariners in a few moments. For now, we're delighted to be joined by fan of David Artell's first club, which is Crewe Alexandra, who they themselves, as I mentioned earlier, got a fantastic victory, 3-1.
I was meant to say Crewe. Sorry, that was
right.
I was meant to say Crewe wasn't like the best performance. Sorry, I realised.
Yeah, Crewe Alexandra were fantastic, weren't they? Delighted to be joined by Tom Boone from the Railwaymen. Tom, what did you what did you make of that opening day?
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely fantastic, wasn't it? It was sort of not necessarily unexpected, but I think there was certainly a bit of pessimism internally and externally about Crewe going into this season. And so the result possibly not a big upset, but that sort of performance was just absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Connor Thomas stands out from the outside with 2 goals, but I wanted to touch on Owen Lunt because this feels like it could be a big season for him off the back of that performance.
Yeah, I mean, Owen Lunt's sort of a different type of player to what you expect an academy graduate to be at Crewe as well, because you sort of associate them as those sort of more technical, those sort of more gifted on the ball sort of players. And actually, Owen Lunt's best strengths are his tenacity, his pressing. He goes into tackles. He's sort of a real box-to-box midfielder. I don't think there's sort of anyone that springs to mind, other than his uncle Kenny Lunt, that would produce a similar sort of ability.
Yeah, absolutely. Ed, it's kind of quite nice to see somebody new come in off that Crewe Alexandra conveyor belt, because as much as there have been players who have come through since the last golden generation, the likes of Maciej Holacek, for instance, being one, it does feel like it's been one of those drier spells, perhaps, for them. So it's good to see Owen Lunt really grabbing his opportunity.
Well, I would ask the question, is he a newcomer? Because I feel like we've kind of known about him in the circles for a while. I think he had a handful of mainly substitute appearances probably last year, but I think it was 17 league games. I've gone down checking some numbers. So he's been on the radar for a while. Maybe you could say it's the first time we've seen him at the start of the season look like he could be a regular in the middle of the park, which would be quite handy. But then I kind of wonder, we've seen in recent years, Adrian Thibault, I think is how we're saying it right, appear into there. Joel Taberner had the point where he was really on fire, seemingly with a really bright start at 18. Seems to kind of dropped away a bit from that high maybe to a certain level. Holochick's already been mentioned. Charlie Thinistich now and then. It's still your standard Crewe team where there are a number of academy products in there they try to make use of. And I guess we're kind of wondering how close are we to the next golden crop? Because normally when Crewe have a golden crop, you can say, well, get yourselves up into League One, lads. Get yourselves ready to enjoy these players at the best of their abilities.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say we're definitely sort of bordering that sort of point, and we're having players come through that have been on the fringes, like you said. And I said to Gab on the sort of deep dive we did in the summer that it's sort of make or break for a lot of these sort of youngsters on whether they're going to make it at Crewe or whether they're not. And I think the likes of Lewis Billington, Tom Booth, Owen Lunt, Charlie Finney, the ones who have been on the fringes and haven't been week by week starters like Mattis and like Joel Tabner have been. It's big seasons for them, and it was really nice to see someone like Lunt that, like you say, he's actually been around now for 2 seasons, making, you know, appearances off the bench or playing in the pizza, whatever trophy it's called nowadays. But it seems like he is going to be a regular, and actually he was someone I was doubtful. When I saw him starting, I thought maybe we'd get Tesco over him, but proved me wrong, and hopefully it's his sort of season to kick on now.
Yeah, what I'm really pleased is it feels like now that Marshall's moved on, it's a chance for Tom Booth to get himself back in there and be the number one for the season. Because what was the last homegrown goalkeeper you guys had who was the proper number one?
Oh, Will Jaskalainen.
Yeah.
Jaskalainen. Was he ever the... Was he the goalkeeper in that promotion? I'm trying to think back.
Yeah,
he
started regularly.
I've got him.
Yeah,
I got him in my head. There was a very old guy. Sorry, alongside him. Was it
Dave Richards? Was it Dave Richards?
Dave Richards is the name that comes to mind there. So Booth, I'm really keen to see grow, competing with Waller through his competition. Tom, I did want to ask about Lewis Billington. I haven't quite figured that he's a bit like Zach Williams yet, where he feels like Zach Williams is a centre back who can play out wide. Do you think Billington is more of a right back than, say, a right side defender?
Yeah, Billington's definitely a right back. I think I'd say he's the opposite to Williams. He's a right back that can play centre back, if that makes sense. And I think he's someone that in a back three, as that right-sided centre back, looks really, really good. In a back four, he's got to be the right back. And actually, pre-season and at the back end of last season, he's really worked on getting forward and down the line a bit more. So he's possibly more of a defensive fullback, but I would definitely have him down as a right back rather than a centre back.
So, Tom, in terms of that team performance with Lunt and Thomas as part of it, has that kind of whet your appetite for the season and kind of maybe refreshed your optimism? Because when we had you on the deep dive, you did feel like you could see it going either way. Has this kind of refueled your positivity, as it were?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm always someone who's quite optimistic in the worst of times at sort of Crewe Alex as well. But I think I went into this season really excited because I really didn't know what to expect. And I touched on that with you in the deep dive because, like you said, there was a genuine argument and there was a genuine case that we might finish 21st, 22nd, we might be in a relegation scrap. But there was also that flip argument and sort of, again, a really compelling case that we might be up there, that we might be going for it again. And it was, the next 45 games are going to be seeing which way it pans out. But that's set the bar. That's set the expectation of what we now know this group can perform like. And, it wasn't like it was sort of a fluky 3-1 win. It was convincing. It was really sort of devastating on the attack.
It was probably a game you could have gone home a hard time at, admittedly. But
yeah.
All the action was the first half of it, certainly.
Yeah, but we had chances to make it 4 or 5 in the second half as well. Tommy O'Reilly hitting the bar, Josh March, Matty Young made a good save off of one of his shots. So again, the first half was probably sort of the peak of the game, and it just sort of played out for another 45 minutes. But we were really, really good.
Am I going to have to eat my words on Josh March then, Tom?
Well, I have been saying to you for ages that I'm hoping you eat your words. I just think, and I understood your points about him, but what I will say is he's the exact profile of striker that we've just been missing since Elliot Nevitt's departed that team. The sort of off-the-ball work, the pressing, the runs into the channels that he does, I think they're key to a Lee Bell side. And last season without them, and then when Tracy got injured as well, we genuinely really struggled to create. And Josh March was just so positive to watch. And his assist for Thomas's first goal, I believe it was, just a pinpoint, brilliant cross to him.
So, what do you think it'll be the same 11 for Accrington Stanley at home next week?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I don't really know who you drop unless there's a slight knock or injury or illness in the squad. I really can't imagine who you drop after that performance. Whether he wants to change the game plan based on the team we're facing or based on it being at home, maybe try and fit Emre Tezgel in there. But I don't. I think based on how well it worked on Saturday, I can't see anything changing drastically, and I can't see a reason to change anything, to be honest.
Exciting stuff. Well, we wish you the best luck for Accrington Stanley at home, Tom, and look forward to catching up with you later in the season.
Cheers, pleasure, mate.
Cheers. So my next guest is Simon from Walsall Fan TV. Simon, great to have you on. As much as I'm a big one for not putting too much stock in opening day results and performances, because things can change a lot, and I like to leave things 10 games to see how things pan out. I do think that for Walsall especially, perhaps starting well was important, and you got that result, battling with 10 men as well.
Yeah, it was important to get a good result first game of the season, and when we went down to 10 men 20 minutes in, even though we were 1-0 up, it did sort of feel like, hang on, this is sort of starting to go wrong. But Walsall battled really well, limited Swindon to just a few opportunities, and was really impressed with the performance, to be honest. Some really good performances all over the pitch. The cameo from Courtney Clark has taken some smiles as well. Lewis Warrington came on for Brandon Comley, so it'd be interesting to see how he copes coming in, because he's not had much of the pre-season, so he's sort of playing catch up a little bit with the team. What do you know about Lewis Warrington?
Well, he had a very good half season, I think, at Tranmere Rovers in the second half of the 21-22 campaign, where he looked a very cultured midfielder and put in a great effort, if you like. And then he went to Fleetwood and did reasonably well in League One. But I think last couple of years it's been a bit quiet for Lewis Warrington, and his career hasn't.
He's been very bit part of a number of different clubs, it's felt like, in recent years for him. Yeah. And I kind of wondered again if that was going to be the case coming to Walsall with so many midfielders around him, and the idea in my head that Comley was the star, but maybe this red card for Comley hands a chance for him to kind of establish himself more in the centre of the park.
Yeah, well, he's definitely in as a CDM. My contact at Salford was not over complimentary for the work he did for Salford, but I think if Walsall use him right, and with Aidan Flint behind him giving him some guidance, I think he could settle in. But I think he needs a couple of weeks. To sort of get used to the pattern of play and that sort of thing. I think it's a big one to replacing Ryan Stirk. Ryan Stirk had a good season.
Yeah.
So tough role for him.
Absolutely, yeah, because I think Ryan Stirk plays quite a niche role in your system, in the sense that he's the conductor that people look to in terms of on the ball options for defenders if the 2-8s and the wing backs are high at the pitch, and he's also the one that precisely because of that has to cover a lot of ground. So replacing Ryan Stirk, I think, is going to be really central to Walsall's chances this season. I wanted to ask you about the debutant, Simon. 9 new signings so far, a lot of them featuring on Saturday. Was there a lot of positive impacts from those new faces?
Very much so. Given that it was a rearguard action, you could sort of forgive Mason Hancock. He perhaps looked a bit exposed at times and maybe struggled, but given that it was attack versus defence for 80 minutes, he was only sort of caught out once or twice. So I think he got through that fairly well. His deliveries from wing back is going to bring us a lot more joy than we got from Liam Gordon last season, I believe. Even though Liam Gordon cutting inside was a pleasure to see. Rico Brown at the back. He'd been with Walsall, but it was his first start. He was very good. Aidan Flint is a massive addition. And Obviously, I'm not sure whether any of you remember last season, Walsall sort of blew it a little bit. I don't know if you recall that, but that would not have happened if Aidan Flint had been in the team.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That organisational nous, that cool head.
Yeah, the experience and the voice, the calm voice. And we've already heard from the players that sort of like he's always talking to them and that sort of thing. Evan Weir obviously started 7 minutes in with a wonderful free kick to say this is where the Taylor Allen goals are going to be replaced. Maybe that's calling for it a bit early, but we knew that he's got a good dead ball record. So that's positive. On the right side, obviously we had Connor Barrett got his first goal, which is nice. I say Mason Hancock didn't really have a chance to get forward that much. Up front, Elvis, Aaron Presley. He again, because Johnny Stuttle had to go off with the sending off. Obviously, he got replaced.
But do you know what? I saw the extended highlights, and there was one move where Johnny Stuttle, you could see his pace was electric. Like he ran in behind so quickly, and it does look like.
I'm not sure whether it's pace. I think it's speed of thought.
Or maybe it's that, yeah. But certainly there's something different there.
Not slow by any means, but I think he's got a very smart head on him.
Right,
and
okay.
I think he'll get goals because of that.
Maybe he looks quick in certain moments because of that speed of thought or something along those lines. But no, that's really exciting because I think you missed that kind of mobility up top last season. So that aspect excites me.
With Presley, because he was up on his own, he was winning a lot of balls, but he was heading them on to nowhere effectively because Stuttle wasn't there. If we'd have kept 11 players for the whole game, you could never really know what would happen. But I think Walsall would have.
Presley was feeling lonesome tonight.
Yeah. Oh dear, you go.
I've got a whole season of this.
That's funny.
Oh dear. Edward's just crying with the.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know.
This is why I come up with these, just to annoy him.
We haven't seen anything of Vinnie Harper. He didn't make the 18, which was a surprise because he's looked quite useful in pre-season. And also Harrison Burke, he didn't make the 18. He rolled his ankle in pre-season, but he's back in contention for Saturday.
Lovely.
So it seems that we've got a very full bench, and we're going to have players that are going to be missing out again. It was a shame that Ronan Mayer didn't make the 18. Sometimes it's one of those, isn't it? You don't really give full value to the ones that you know the best, perhaps.
Yeah, I really want to see Ronan Mayer get those opportunities, but again, I mean, maybe if I'm looking at it more optimistically, if the likes of Harrison, Burke, and Ram aren't in the 18. Maybe that suggests there's a reasonable amount of depth, which hopefully will see you in good stead for over the course of the season.
Well, the important thing at the start of the season is to have at least 2 for each position, and we've got that just about. So then you've got certain players that are going to miss out on the bench, but you can't cover every position on the bench, can you? That's the kind of challenge. It was good to see the priestly Farquharson. He sort of came off the bench, so it's good to see him getting minutes. And Walsall are sort of in for another striker, I believe, with Levi going out on loan to Southend. Walsall are looking to bring in another loan player.
Interesting.
So who knows? Michael Mellon was mentioned.
Now you're talking.
But the thing is, who's going to play, and who's going to be in the 18? Because when you look at Walsall's bench, you've got Jamil Matt. Josh Gordon didn't make the bench on Saturday. And if we bring another striker in, then he's not going to struggle
for opportunities, isn't he, Josh Gordon, I would imagine.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up back at Barrow. I think it probably would be good for him.
Right.
Um,
Ed, what, just coming on to you, what do you think has that opening day performance given you some encouragement around what's possible for Walsall from an outside
Oh,
perspective?
how often are they going to play with 10 men for 70 minutes, Gab? It's
80 minutes.
extremely more than that, exactly, maybe more than that. It's extremely encouraging. I find the winner goal really funny. Just watching it back, just Swindon trying to play this offside trap against 10 men, 1-2, just go straight through him. And the fact that basically the closest man to Conor Barry as he runs through is Albert Adoma, I just find very funny. The idea that Adoma's the one who actually could tackle him most. Just, I think that there's a Swindon perspective to look at and just think how they've managed to mess that up to the level they have given the opposition. I suppose it's testament to Aidan Flint, as we're saying in the back there. Really positive start. I'm not going to sit here and draw any massive conclusions about Walsall yet, because I'd like to see them finish the game with 11 men, because I want to see what Johnny Stottle's probably about. 20-minute cameo is not really the example yet what we can see from him.
Yeah, Johnny Stuttle will score goals. Will score goals this season, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah. The issue last season, Matt Sadler relied too much on the first 11 and didn't rotate enough. But I
think that comes on to the striker issue as well, Simon. Like, I think if you've got a good rooster of strikers, then you reduce your reliance on any one of them.
I'd say it's also more the centre-back situation, because last year we had, what would it have been? It was Williams, Allen, and Okebue. And it felt like he wanted that three at every single opportunity. And there were a couple of times where he either took them out or had to take them out, and you weren't sure the backups were a relative level. We probably just seen it there. I don't think Evan Weir and Rico Brown were in our heads the starters, and either side of Aidan Flint have just done a winning performance there. So when Williams returns, whenever that does, and when we get Harrison Burke back in there, good. I'm liking that centre back mix now that's in there.
Well, Harry Williams is out for the season.
Okay,
he's not going to play. But then
explain why I can't find a squad number for him.
I don't think he's signed yet. He was out of contract, but I think Walsall offered him perhaps a retainer for the season. But he was due to leave, so some people would say let him go if he didn't want to stay. But I mean, it's a caring, sharing team that sort of looks after him while he's recuperating. And as far as Harrison Burke, he looks like he's going to be coming in, but given Evan Weir's set piece ability, I think it'd be hard to take him out. I'm
really excited about Evan Weir this season. I think it's a big season for him.
I can't understand why he didn't get more games last season,
because he was competing with Taylor Allen.
Well, no, because he can play left wing. You can play left wing back as well.
Yeah, I think Sadler clearly liked just having Gordon out there. It felt like that left hand side of Allen and Gordon was just his preferred duo.
And this is perhaps the problem. If he gets caught up with favourites too much, Liam Gordon was absolutely shot, and he just kept playing him 90 minutes, and he was just exhausted. And
but now I think there's better competition in those areas. Like, you've got left wing back, you've got Mason Hancock, and you've got
Vinny Harper,
Vinny Harper, So I think there's a bit more competition now than there was last season. That aspect definitely excites me. But I do agree. I think he has to rotate a bit more this season.
And then with Courtney Clark available as right wing back, he looked really good when he came on. Very powerful, quick, strong. He could easily sort of step into that 8 role, I think. If Jellis is missing, because he came on for Jellis on Saturday.
Oh right, not Barrett.
No,
of course, because Barrett scored the goal.
Yeah. So and then of course, where to find a place for Albert Adoma is a tricky one. Because at the moment he keeps getting cameos up front, which helping to see games out is good. But if we get another striker in, who's going to be on the bench? That's the challenge. So you got the keeper, a centre half, a midfielder, and then you start a wing back. You can't have both wing backs, a centre midfielder, and a striker, and a defender, and a keeper. You run out of places.
Sure.
So it's a nice problem to have, but Matt Sadler needs to learn that he does need to rotate the squad more than he did last season, because that was his undoing, really. Everybody was shattered. And when he had 2 key injuries in Hall and Earring, he was shot.
But exciting to see the spirit and togetherness among the group to battle for that win with 10 men in adversity. So an encouraging start.
Very much so, yeah.
Well, Simon, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll let you go and have your dinner now.
Cheers. Go in the pain.
Top man.
Cheers, guys.
We heard earlier from Jack Kershaw from Fleetwood Town. Here's what he had to say about their 2-0 victory at Barnet on the opening day.
There's no better way than to start the season with 3 points. And I'm smiling because Fleetwood did so, winning 2-0 away at Barnet. And I thought it was a complete away performance. Defending our box, we were really comfortable. Jay Lynch made some good saves. Barnet had 19 shots and put 6 on target. Going forward, I thought we were comfortable. We didn't have as much of the ball, but when we had it, we created chances. We tried to get bodies forward, which was nice. Toby Malarkey made a few overlapping runs on the right. Sean Rooney brought real energy. Denver Hume had a few crosses into the box, and even defensively, I thought Denver Hume was really good, even though Grimsby fans said that that's sort of his weakness, but 1v1 he was solid. And then the midfield, Harrison Neal put a shift in. Elliot Bonds drove forward really well, and obviously he got his first goal in a Fleetwood Town shirt whilst captaining the side in the league for the first time, so that was a nice moment. And then if you look at our striking options, Will Davis won't get an easy goal to score in his EFL career, and alongside him we've got Ryan Graydon, who got 20 goal contributions in all competitions last season. And then you bring on James Norwood and Ched Evans, so that's real nice squad depth that we've got, especially in forward areas. But then you look at midfield, you bring in young George Morrison on, who's had around 70 games in the National League, and he's still only a teenager, so that's really good to bring him on. In the midfield, Matty Virtue was our joint top goal scorer last season. So yeah, we were great in both boxes, especially in comparison to how Barnet were. And I'm really excited about the season now. I think, like I said, we've got a real good force in the centre forward area. Maybe add a couple wingers, and I think that could be Fleetwood's depth sorted. Norwood and Evans are getting on a bit. If they get injured, then we'll switch back to a 4-2-3-1 and we'll play with wingers. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. We got off to a flyer, and hopefully we can continue that.
Jack Kershaw there, expert on Fleetwood Town and a really good young talented analyst on the lower leagues. Ed, just briefly on Fleetwood, that striker options with James Norwood, Will Davis, Ronan Coughlin and Ryan Graydon. I mean, that's a nice set of options for League Two level, isn't it? And it's a good. We talked about rooster of strikers with Walsall. Fleetwood certainly have that.
Certainly is, because I think to go back 12 months, we were wanting a front line to emerge because it hadn't really set anything alight upper level in League One. Looked to Graydon and Coughlin to be the main two, and I think largely over the season they did prove that, but had some injuries towards the back end which affected the amount of available options. So now just to have those hugely seasoned figures in Norwood and Evans. Norwood's had quite a fascinating recent career, hasn't he? Because he was a top League One striker for a while with a successful League One team. Yeah. Drops into the National League, and now you would theorise maybe gone up another step level from Oldham to go to Fleetwood to a team that ideally is targeting the top end again. So I'm still not quite sure what Norwood's natural level is at, because it feels like he hasn't been it for a while now.
Well, one thing I would say, Ed, is don't sleep on James Norwood, because while he didn't play much for Oldham last season, and that would be their argument for maybe not offering or him a certain deal of a certain sort of wage or whatever. I believe that he went to America in the summer to sort of get some surgery on something to get him into the right physical condition. And so if that's been successful, then he has every chance of being one of the top strikers in this league, because, as he showed in the playoff final, he's got the ability to produce some lovely individual moments, as well as having that physicality and hold up play and work ethic. So James Norwood, I definitely think
I like the idea of him potentially being an impact man in limited minutes, bringing him on when teams are slightly more worn out, bringing him when it's pressure. That's quite good for Fleetwood if they can start with Graydon and Coughlin. Well, Graydon Davis at the minute as it is.
Yeah.
And then have those two veteran guys potentially just seeing out the game. The idea of defenders having to deal with that starting two, and then two hugely seasoned things who played at a much higher level come in. You don't want to face that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't fancy defending really. Dealing with Davis and Graydon for 70 minutes, and then dealing with James Norwood. So they've got real options there, Fleetwood Town. Speaking of seaside towns, we're now joined by Charles Lumley from View from the Finders podcast on Grimsby. Charles, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
That was as consummate an opening day performance as you've seen at Bundle Park, I imagine.
Yes, I think it was. It was absolutely fantastic. So it was one of those days where sort of everything seemed to go right, and it was very hard to pick any negatives. So it's something I'm known for, but not even I could find any. So yeah, I mean, the only sort of qualifying statement there is that I don't think Crawley were very good. So whether they just weren't prepared, I think they'd actually been all right in pre-season, but they looked...
Couldn't deal with the Mighty Mariners, that's what it was.
You know what? I think that's probably what it was. But yeah, so it was whether it's finding that balance between us being good and Crawley being bad. It's probably a mixture of the two, but it was hugely positive on Saturday, and we're now top of the league.
Can we agree that the penalty's contentious?
Yes, definitely. I didn't think that the one that was given, I did not think was a penalty. From where I was sat in the upper Findus, I didn't get a great view of it. I think it's all about whether Kieran Green touched the ball first, and the video I've seen on social media wasn't particularly conclusive, but didn't look a penalty to me. However, in the second half, there was the most blatant penalty you'll ever see, which wasn't given for Grimsby. So I wonder if these things do balance themselves out, as people say.
I was waiting for that quote to come.
Yeah. I mean, and also, it would have made no difference. Grimsby were by far the better team, and we were, 3-0 was not flattering. So I think we would have won penalty or no penalty.
This is an interesting topic now, isn't it? Because we can't really answer this till we're a couple of months down the line. Have we just seen a top-end team destroy a bottom-end team? Or is that just a case where Grimsby just smashed Crawley on a specific day?
Yeah, I think Harrogate away is our next game, and that'll be the perfect way to find out. If we get thumped 3-0 there, we know it's a false dawn and Crawley are rubbish. Crawley, Scott Lindsay's a good manager, isn't he? And like I say, I think Crawley had a decent pre-season. So no Grimsby fan was expecting an easy match on Saturday. So it suggests that we are in good shape. I think we've recruited well. We've managed to hang on some of our key players, which were rumoured to be on the way out. Denver Hume, your Fleetwood correspondent, mentioned we lost Denver Hume. We seem to have replaced him well with Sweeney, who we got from Leighton Orient, who I've only seen him once, looked brilliant. And McEachran, who is probably our most important player. There were rumours circulating about him leaving, but he's still here, and our owners put forward a very good case as to why he's still here, because we're a good club doing good things on the up.
Yeah,
Charles, what's your expectation for Evan Curry this year?
To continue improving. So the thing he lacked last year was goals. He's now got 1 in 1, so that's a great hit rate so far this season. He's come through the youth team, and he seems to have sort of grown physically. I don't think he's not a goal scoring central midfielder. I don't think, but he loves getting stuck in. He's good at sort of doing some of the ugly work, and if he can add goals to that as well, then I think we've got a great player on our hands, because he's still a very young man.
Certainly is. What really excites me, Charles, is I think you'd have been surprised to hear that Grimsby scored 3 on the opening day when you've got those injuries, the absence of Spanthorst and the absence of Danny Rose. But I suppose in the latter's absence, Jay Cabia has stepped up in a way that few would have expected. So just talk to us about his impact.
Yeah, so we got him from Truro, so obviously a lower level, and I think it's I'm fairly certain it's his first experience of the Football League. But he's come on the back of scoring lots of goals and being promoted, which is something that's always good, getting players on the way up rather than perhaps on the way down. We've recruited in the past from relegated teams and it doesn't tend to end well. So he's come here and a bit of an unknown, a bit of a gamble. We've gambled on non-league strikers in the past from lower levels like Omar Bogle, who was a huge success. Ian Holloway signed some whose names I can't even remember, who are now, I don't know, probably working in supermarkets or whatever, but they were not successes. So it is a gamble signing from a lower level, but on the showing of Saturday, he looks more than capable. So he played centrally due to Danny Rose's injury. I think he can also play on the right of a front three. But he's big, he's strong. He, like Danny Rose, he doesn't give defenders a minute. So he's, harrying, chasing down. Crawley, for some reason, tried to continually play out from the back, even though they didn't look quite good enough to do it. And he was the one putting that pressure on. He took it. I mean, his goal was a penalty. It was a really good penalty. Keeper went the right way, but it was in the corner, well hit, and a good finish. So I know, excuse me, the Grimsby Town have a data-led approach to their recruitment now, and I've heard from other people that he is the one who is ticking all the boxes when it comes to data, and they're incredibly excited about him. So I think he's only in his early 20s, and it's Jamestown Analytics I think we use, and I think I've heard second-hand information that we're very excited about what his data suggests he's capable of.
Yeah, really exciting time, that's for sure. Nice to see Grimsby keep a clean sheet as well, because while I think on balance you were good defensively last season, you did have difficulty defending set pieces from time to time. Just wondering if you're happy with the impact Christy Pym has made, albeit bigger tests.
Yeah. He had one. They had one shot on target, Crawley, which was a shot from outside the area that went very slowly towards him, and he managed to bend down and pick it up before it went in the goal. So, but other than that, I think the immediate impression is he looks a very confident goalie, as he should do. He's had a good career, hasn't he? He's been promoted with Mansfield, played at high level in League Two. Seemed vocal, came out and mopped stuff up whenever there was balls over the top. He's quite quick off his line and stuff like that. And I think myself and quite a few Grimsby Town fans would say having a really good goalie last year could have been the difference between us finishing where we did and finishing in the playoffs, because we had Wright and Eastwood, neither of whom are still with the club, and I think it's fair to say we lost a few points due to goalkeeping errors.
Yeah, so hopefully that's going to come to the fore. Talk to me about Doug Tharm, Charles, because I feel like he's somebody who's really grown under Dave Dartell in terms of his on the ball and progressive.
Yeah, his hair's grown as well, and he has. So when he first came, he looked like a sort of typical League Two centre back in that he won all his headers and he got stuck in. Obviously, Grimsby now are trying to play sort of more possession-based football, so we're rolling it around the back four and stuff like that. And I don't think that's his natural game, but I think he's improved in that respect, and he's still winning all his headers, being vocal. I think he's a good leader. I think fans like him, and hearing him, I've never met the guy, but hearing him interviewed, he comes across very intelligent, very thoughtful for a footballer, and I can imagine he's a very good person to have in the dressing room. He's someone who often looks for a longer ball, but not in a hoof, if you know what I mean. So one of the good things on Saturday was we were really mixing it up. So occasionally we would play it out from the back, and there's periods where we were playing lovely little triangles and stuff like that. But when there was a more direct ball on, all of the back four and Pym as well, the goalkeeper, were not afraid to go long if there was a viable long ball on. Then it was used.
Ed, from a neutral point of view, do you, and again, always comments, not conclusions on opening day, because you want to see things pad out and where see where things level out at. Has that kind of encouraged you about what Grimsby Town can achieve and given you a little bit of a flavour?
Yeah, it has to, because I kind of worried they were quite dependent still on Danny Rose to be the main man in the line. If Cabby's putting in a camera like that, appearance 1, I'm deeply encouraged by that, and to see what still comes in place around it. Charles Vernon, I really want to see light things up, because I think Charles Vernon, when he's on, is absolutely wicked. I'd love to see him throw a bit more on the left-hand side. Quite nice to see a little cameo of Darragh Burns, probably a bit to do with Van Torsen not being around, but it's a logical thing, I think, for the right-hand side. I just particularly love that midfield and the centre-back options. I would still argue Harvey Rogers might be one of the most underrated players in the division. I think for his versatility across the back line, it's just super handy.
So he played right back on Saturday, having played centre back most of last year, and he had height, which he's tall for a full back, and I think he'd probably admit, like, going forward as a full back is not his natural thing, but he did it on Saturday, and didn't look out of place at right back.
Right now, I really like the look of that 11, so I'd love to see it have a really good start to August and get out of the blocks really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else that you're sort of excited about for this season, Charles, that we've not mentioned yet?
Burns actually. So Burns came to us from the League of Ireland, and I think didn't have a pre-season because the seasons run at different times, don't they? And he didn't look fantastic last season. So I think everyone was being patient because you've got to be patient with new players, especially when they're young and they played in a different league. But he didn't set the world alight last year. But I think having had a pre-season this year, and obviously a bit more experience of the way David Outtrp wants Grimsby to play, a bit more experience of how his colleagues want to play, has made all the difference because he looked fantastic on Saturday. So him and Charles Vernon are very good attacking, wide men.
I think part of the problem with Darragh Burns, I think he's a bit of a victim of versatility, because what we've seen previously with Milton Keynes Dons, and indeed when he's been over in Ireland with Shamrock Rovers, he's been deployed sometimes in the front two, sometimes as one of the three behind a striker. He's gone a wing back at times. He's incredibly versatile in essentially wide and forward areas. And so I find managers have kind of shuttled him in where they can, and maybe that's been the case to Burns up to now in his time at Grimsby, with that match fitness too, from having to switch over to a different kind of season. It's not necessarily felt like he's the number one starter, for instance, the right wing position at the minute ahead of Van Torsen.
Yeah, I don't think he is.
Putting in more space like that, there's a chance for him to take it.
Yeah, agree.
Let's hope that's the case. Charles, are you excited by this kind of growth that we seem to see from David Outtrp's players? It feels to me like the longer he works with players, the more that they seem to improve and grow and develop.
Very much so. I read your predictions for the season, which took a lot of Grimsby fans by surprise, having us second. But it was something you mentioned that not only everyone says this in the summer
because Dave Outtrp paid him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we were a bit concerned. We like going under the radar a bit, but yeah. I mean, it was a fantastic preview, but it was great to read some positive words. But the important thing there was that he's improving existing players as well as signing good ones. So I think we've signed quite well. I'm not an expert on this league like you guys, but I think the players we've brought in it have improved us. But also, you mentioned Crewe, Burns, Harvey Rogers. They've improved under Outtrp. Farm as well. Like him and his coaching staff. I'm not sure where the credit lies exactly, but we have seen players very much change. Like Kieran Green was good, and fans liked him because he got stuck in and went flying in for challenges. But nobody saw him being this, the second coming of Franz Beckenbauer, and being all over the pitch and
goal scoring midfielding,
and scoring goals from his own half, and at Harrogate away last season. So Kieran Green has absolutely transformed under Outtrp, and I think that's almost as exciting as the new signing, seeing how some of the players will develop under Outtrp and team.
Do you reckon Tully's going to get his opportunity this season? I mean, it looks like he's going to stay, but
so that is a bit of an enigma. So he's for those who don't know, he's come from the Faroe Isles. I think we went to a lot of effort to get him. We eased him in very gently last season. When he did play, he looked very comfortable on the ball, but obviously he's got to learn the differences between League Two and the Faroes. And I think he is that sort of linchpin midfielder like McEachran. And I'm hopeful that he's not a replacement. He's an addition too, So if McEachran needs a rest or is out, we've got Turi to step in.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Charles, thanks so much for your insight on Grimsby Town, and an exciting season ahead, I hope.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. All the best.
Top man, Charles.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
So, Ed, I mean, it's I think those teams, Crewe, Walsall, and Grimsby and Fleetwood, have shown some really exciting signs this opening weekend. And I guess the big question is whether they can back it up the following weekend.
This is really hard to do, this first episode, isn't it? Because we just can't. We could comment on the games, but I don't really want to just sit here and sort of say, "Oh, this team scored this goal and this team scored that goal, and we did all this and that." It's so hard to sit here and say nailed on conclusion now about where we are, because as I've just said there with Grimsby, I don't know if that's Thirst just beating 24th, or is that two mid-table sides that are just on the day one's just bested the other. This is the challenge with August and September, Gab. You have no idea what kind of opponent you're playing here, and the picture doesn't become clear until 10 weeks down the line. I mean, we could sit here and say who's had the best performance of the week, and it's undoubtedly Grimsby, and who's had the worst, and it's undoubtedly Crawley. Maybe next week Crawley have the best performance and Grimsby have the worst. It's the beauty of it.
I think that's where you've got to be very careful.
I still feel the same now as I did before we started the season. This League Two season, again, I think it's going to be similar to last year, where it's going to be a very open promotion battle. Might not necessarily need a massive amount of points to get up or indeed win the title, but I suspect there's a lot of teams who are going to think of themselves as being capable of pushing for the top 7 rather than looking downwards. I'd imagine a lot of these teams are going to believe in their capabilities of challenging to that top end.
Absolutely. Well, Ed, a pleasure as always to have you on. Thank you so much for joining me for your insights as co-host. Thanks to everyone for watching at home. This has been the EFL Debate League 2 podcast, and we'll see you again next week.